Hey up lads, I'm Scrap Iron Steve and welcome to a completely different game! Yeah, this time I'm gonna be going through my Anafenza EDH deck. EDH being Elder Dragon Highlander, or Commander, a format of Magic, where, aside from lands, every card has to be only one and all different, but it can be from... It's an eternal format of Magic, so it can be any card, basically, aside from the ban list. And yeah, this is my Anafenza the Foremost deck, which doesn't really revolve around the commander that much, but is generally really quite fun. It spreads +1/+1 counters, it does crazy shit with those +1/+1 counters, and it can make really scary boards. It's not impervious to being broken because board wipes kind of hurt this a lot, but that's more because of my budget constraints than more than anything. But hey, let's get on to the profile, because there's 100 cards in there. So, first off we have the Commander, Anafenza the Foremost. What she does... Well, she is the Commander, so I might as well explain her. She is a 4/4 for white, black, green, Abzan colours, and whenever she attacks, tapped creature you control gets +1/+1 counter, and if a creature would be sent to the graveyard, an opponent's graveyard I should say, it gets exiled instead. So it doesn't affect you, but it affects everybody else, which is lovely. And yeah, she's the commander more because, well, she's a useful option to have against certain decks more than anything. For example, my friend plays a Dimir Mill deck, which doesn't like this card very much. Let's just put it that way. It kind of destroys his whole strategy, which is useful. But yeah, the +1/+1 counter synergy kind of works with this deck, but all in all, not that related to the deck, but fuck it, it's a good commander, and Abzan are really nice colours, so yay. Right, then on to the first section, which is going to be counter spreading, because spreading +1/+1 counters is what this deck needs to do, and there's a lot of cards in here that can do it, that just don't often, because they've got other effects which you want to use. But there's a lot of ways of getting +1/+1s in this deck, and it's really useful. So, animation module, not quite a counter spreader, but it doubles counters and shit like that. Anafenza Kindred Spirit for the bolster. Abzan Ascendancy just gives a +1/+1 to everything when it comes on the field. Rayhan Last of the Abzan fucks around with +1/+1 counters, and she gets 3 to begin with, it's cool. Landfall +1/+1s on Retreat to Kazandu. Juniper Order Ranger, everything enters with a +1/+1 counter and he gains another one. And Cathal's Crusade, whenever a creature enters the battlefield, every creature you control gets a +1/+1. Yeah, Cathal's Crusade might be the best card in this deck, just because... Ah, yes, it revolves around +1/+1s. Everything has a +1/+1. And again, and again, and again, and again. Cathal's Crusade can make everything bullshit, and it's lovely. But yeah, you want to spread +1/+1 counters as quickly as possible. And while some of these aren't the best at it, for example, Animation Module, Anafenza Kindred Spirit, they are the low mana versions. Rayhan, that's more about moving counters when your things die. But Abzan Ascendancy, Retreat to Kazandu, Juniper Order Ranger, Cathal's Crusade, all amazing at spreading +1/+1 counters. And you need as many +1/+1s around as possible, because that makes your shit work. And to help with that, we have a package of 4 cards, which work in both this deck and any Golgari deck, really, which is Hardened Scales, Winding Constrictor, Pure Imaginative Rascal, and Corpsejack Menace. Yeah, these are really fucking good in this deck, because Hardened Scales, Winding Constrictor, and Pure Imaginative Rascal, whenever a counter would... one or more counters would be placed on a card, you get to add an extra 1, and Corpsejack, whenever one or more +1/+1 counters would be put on a card I control, a creature I control rather, double the amount. Yeah, Corpsejack can get dumb. Corpsejack can get real dumb. And it's great. They are It's quite subject to removal though, because people see them and go, no, you don't want that. But the fact that they're all really low mana, even Corpsejack for what he does, because that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're really accessible, makes them really useful in the deck, especially Hardened Scales, because it's a 1-drop, and it's an enchantment, so it's pretty hard to remove compared to the other 3, which are all creatures. And if for whatever reason you're so inclined, if your opponent is playing Toothy, you can help them get that out with Peer. But that'd just be a bit strange. But yeah, doubling or adding counters whenever you add counters, beautiful. These 4 cards are some of the best in the deck alongside Cathal's Crusade. Especially when played alongside Cathal's Crusade, because that just makes the entire board ridiculous. Now, onto the shit you can do with these +1/+1 counters. The Abzan had a series of cards which had a Outlast, which is 1 of a colour, then tap, put a +1/+1 counter on a creature as a sorcery. And they also had each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter has a certain keyword. So, Merrick Nightblade gives Death Touch to all +1/+1 counter creatures. Abzan Battle Priest does the same with Lifelink. Einok Bondkin with First Strike. Abzan Falconer with Flying. And Tuskguard Captain with Trample. Einok Bondkin is Outlast is 1 and a white, but that beside the point. So yeah, these guys are amazing, because they give everything you have a keyword. And it's some of the best keywords in the game. Death Touch, Trample, Flying, First Strike. Lifelink, meh. But you can get Flying Trample, which is an amazing combination. Death Touch Trample, which is an amazing combination. First Strike Death Touch, brilliant. All these kind of things with these cards, and they're really cheap as well. These 2 are 4 mana, but that's 3, 3, and 2. They're just brilliant in the deck, and they help your shit move so much faster. And of course, because they have Outlast, they can put counters on themselves, so you don't have to rely on the cards I've showed before, like Abzan Ascendancy. So yeah, these guys are really good. And then there's other cards which do similar things, but don't have Outlast, so it's not as easy to get counters on them. Oops, just knocked the camera. So there's Ivory Tusk Fortress, which you untap every creature with a +1/+1 counter at the start of each untap step. Every player's. Elite Scale Guard, which taps down creatures when you're attacking, if the creature attacking has +1/+1. And Rishkar, which adds 2 +1/+1 counters when he enters the battlefield, and turns everything that has a +1/+1 counter into, well, I say Birds of Paradise, a form of Birds of Paradise. Mana Dork, except they can be huge. But that's beside the point. Yeah, these guys have better effect, except for maybe Rishkar, but of course they don't have the Outlast, so it's harder for them to get counters on them, again, except for Rishkar. But all these cards are invaluable in this deck, and they're really, really good. Right. Also in this deck, I play 2 cards which have ETBs based on a number of +1/+1s, being Armorcraft Judge and Avatar of the Resolute. He just gets huge depending on how many +1/+1s you've got. She draws your cards. Just really good standard things, pretty cheap for late game if you're doing it then. It's just generally useful. And then final 3, they're all a bit weird, but really useful. Giant Sage can get like really big and tap for like 5 mana easily if you've got like doublers out and you evolve her and shit like that. Inspiring Call is just useful. Draws, indestructible, yes. Retribution of the Ancients is a really good removal card, surprisingly. Sure, it costs a black mana to activate, but it's 1 mana to play, 1 mana to activate, and sure, it requires removing +1/+1 counters, but often in the late game you have so many you don't really care, so Retribution of the Ancients is good. Now, general good things you play in the deck, because they're just generally good. So, good 1-drops, aside from Retribution of the Ancients and Hardened Scales, are Endless One and Scoop Mob. Endless One, because Endless One scales so well, and it's entirely +1/+1 counters, so if you've got Battle Priest, it's got lifelink. If you've got Falconer, it's got flying. It always will. And Scoop Mob, just because it goes down turn 1, it's a 1/1. That's fine. Just wait until you get some more lands, and it becomes a 5/5. Or more. Say if you've got Corpse Jack on the field, it becomes a 9/9. Oh, shit. Shit can get crazy with Scoop Mob. Scoop Mob's great. And then there's my favourite package of the deck. Whenever your opponent casts a spell, put a +1/+1. Forgotten Ancient, Sunscorch, Enduring Scale Lord. Enduring Scale Lord's slightly different, but he's equally as useful. Because Forgotten Ancient, whenever a player casts a spell, you can put a +1/+1 counter on him. And you can shift those around, which is really useful. Sunscorch, whenever an opponent casts a spell, you put a +1/+1 on him. He's flying, and he gains life, 1 life as well whenever an opponent casts a spell. Sunscorch is amazing. And Enduring Scale Lord, flying again. Whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are placed on another creature you control, you may put a +1/+1 counter on Enduring Scale Lord. That guy can get ridiculous! With a combo I'm going to show you a little bit later. If you get him out first, I have got him to over 2,500 +1 counters before. In theory. My friends have never let me do it in game, which is rather sad. But to be fair, I lost track of the maths anyway, so I don't fucking know. And finally, on the generally good things, I'm playing 2 Ajanis, because these Ajanis distribute +1/+1 counters. That's a +2 uptick, that's a +1 uptick. And they also let you dive into the top of your deck, which this deck isn't the greatest at draw, but these guys help. You reveal cards until you get a creature, put it on top. Reveal 4, get an aura, creature, or planeswalker, put it into your hand. Sorry, that's into your hand as well. And generally just getting as many creatures on board is what you want to do. Distributing +1/+1s is amazing. In my last game, that got me about 8 different creatures to hand before people killed it for some reason. And yeah, the ult, that one is far better than that one, but it's a fucking ult, so it doesn't really matter. Right, now onto the cards that make the combo. It is... let's see... Bloodflow Connoisseur, Boonweaver Giant, Pattern of Rebirth, Karmic Guide, Fiend Hunter, and Reveillark. Yeah, it's a Karmic Guide Reveillark kind of manipulation kind of thing. It works, because you've got your sack outlet, and you have Reveillark and Karmic Guide, so that just works as standard. But because of Boonweaver being added into the combo as an extra step with Fiend Hunter, you can get every creature in your deck onto the field at once. Yeah. Pretty good. Trouble is, I always lose track of the +1/+1 counters, because it gets ridiculous on some cards. Like, there are ones that get to 500, as I said, Enduring Scale Lord gets to fucking 2,000, and I'm probably going to take this out just because the maths is a nightmare of logistics, but, I mean, keeping a standard Reveillark Karmic Guide combo in this deck is still really good. Fiend Hunter is a decent card in and of itself. Pattern of Rebirth is a good card in and of itself. Boonweaver, meh, he's more in here for the combo, but it's a really fun, dumb combo to play if you want to play with like a big combo that's not quite infinite. And you only really need 2 cards to start it, the Bloodflow and the Boonweaver. And in fact, you could just get Blood Flow and Pattern of Rebirth as well. Oh, that was bad on the glare. There we go. Pattern of Rebirth. So yeah, useful. Now, what's time? Okay. Now on to ramp. I'm playing green. Of course I'm going to ramp a lot. And this deck, it's got your standard Commander ramp. Soul Ring, Solemn, Commander Sphere, standard. Why the fuck would I not play those? Then it's got green ramp, because everybody loves green ramp. It's got Rampant Growth, because of course. Cultivate, because of course. Kodama's Reach, because of course. Explosive Vegetation, I'm going to stop saying because of course. Steve, not the scrapline version, just the regular version. And one that isn't seen very often, but I don't understand why. Map the Wastes. Well, actually no, I know why it doesn't get 2 lands. It gets 1 for the same price as Cultivate, Kodama's Reach, etc. But bolsters, which is really good in this deck. Getting a ramp and a bolster in one. Fucking sign me up. Yes, it's really good. I love Map the Wastes. Honestly, it's a really underrated card. It's probably dirt cheap because it's a common from Fate Reforged. So, good ramp. Now onto removal. And the removal I am playing is Shooby-Dooby-Doo. Abzan Charm, Croson Grip, Swords, Crush Contraband, Utter End, and Night of Autumn. Right, so Croson Grip, Swords to Plowshares, Utter End. They're just really useful, like, destruction and exile effects, because artifacts and enchantments, useful to get rid of. Creatures, exiling creatures, really useful. And exiling a permanent, fucking yes, Utter End is amazing. And then there's these 3, which are in here because, ooh, so versatile. So, Crush Contraband can destroy an artifact and an enchantment, if need be. Night of Autumn, as well as being a Rec Sage, you can either gain life or add +1/+1 counters onto her. +1/+1s, useful. And Abzan Charm is just, it's like so good. It's one of the best removal spells in the game because it exiles target creature with power 3 or greater. It draws or it distributes +1/+1 counters. Yeah, more +1/+1s. You get the picture at this point. So the removal in this deck, well, single target removal I should say, it's pretty decent with the colours you can play. And then there is, well, it's board wipes. I was going to say not single target removal, it's fucking board wipes. So we've got Wrath of God, because it's Wrath of God. Merciless Eviction, I'm playing Order of Colours, why the fuck wouldn't I? Austere Command, I could afford it, and I did. June Blast, because haha, June Blast. And In Garrick's Wake, because haha, In Garrick's Wake. Oh shit, I just realised that the fucking legs are in view. Oops. That's better. And yeah. It's just, it's board wipes. Wrath of God is standard. Oh shit. So Wrath of God, yeah. Merciless Eviction, it exiles and is really versatile. Versatility is the name of Austere Command. June Blast is, well, it's one-sided. I mean, you only get to keep 1 creature, but it's still one-sided, which for 7 mana is pretty damn decent. And then you jump up to 9 mana, and it's completely one-sided, and it's ridiculous, and I love it, because in Garrick's Wake. Dumb. And then, nearing the end of this profile, we have the draw cards which, well, the other draw cards aside from like Armorcraft or Abzan Charm. We've got Night's Whisper, Shamanic Revelation, and Sign in Blood. Night's Whisper and Silent Blood are in here because I couldn't really think of any other good draw cards for the deck. But Shamanic Revelation, really good. You're going to have so many power 4 or more creatures on board. You're going to have a lot of creatures on board. 5 mana is decent for what is actually really good for that kind of effect. So yeah, it's just good draw in general. Then more just... These are the effects which I couldn't really classify into any other kind of thing. So, Dark Petition. It's... Well, you have to have 5 mana open, but it can essentially turn itself into Demonic Tutor because of Spell Mastery. And yeah, it's just a tutor. Tutors are good. Yada yada yada. It's good. I mean, you can get Demonic Tutor, Vampiric Tutor. I'm just poor. Then, See the Unwritten. I love this card because it's so easy to get a power 4 or greater creature on board, and just getting 2 onto board for the cost of 6 mana is amazing. I actually did this under a fucking Windbrisk Heights, and so got it for 1 mana, which was dumb. And then See the Unwritten's Big Daddy, Genesis Wave. I don't really think there's much to be said about Genesis Wave. It's just so good. If you're playing a green deck based around creatures, you play Genesis Wave because it's also ramp. And then finally Regrowth, because didn't want Ewit. Not gonna lie, Eternal Witness didn't really need it in the deck, because sure it's a creature, but it doesn't really interact with much as a creature, and the 1 less mana of Regrowth I like a lot. So yeah, Regrowth instead of Eternal Witness, but Eternal Witness works equally as well. It does the same thing as Eternal Witness. And then finally onto land. There's not much to be said about the lands, it's just kind of a big chunk of land. There's jewels, there's like scry lands, life lands. It could be far better. There's not enough black in there, and I could have shocks, I could have fetches, etc, etc. The mana base, I'm not going to go through it because my one's not that great. But there are 4 lands which I need to draw attention to, one of which is kind of not a land. So, Gavany Township. It spreads +1/+1 counters, is possibly the best card in the deck aside from Cathar's Crusade. That is all. No, seriously, Gavany Township is amazing. Then we have the Growing Rites of Itlamok. You have a lot of creatures a lot of the time, so this will flip easy as fuck. And it's Gaia's Cradle on the other side, and who doesn't love a Gaia's Cradle? And then finally 2 very similar cards, because they're both Hideaway lands, Mosswalk Bridge and Windbrisk Heights. Yeah, the Hideaway lands are good. They're just good. As I said earlier, I got to See the Unwritten under Windbrisk Heights and got out 2 creatures for 1 mana. One mana. Yeah. They're just good. And like, you're going to be attacking a lot in this deck if you don't play it like a moron like I do. And you're gonna have more than 10 power on board, because fuck me, yes you are. That's all. This deck is built around power, so Mosswalk Bridge is really easy. Windbrisk Heights, you've got so many creatures, just fucking attack. Just for it, it's great. Yeah, those are just generally good lands to play. Black one, I cannot remember, not gonna lie, but it didn't seem to be that good in this deck, so I left it out. And so, that is the end of this deck tech, deck profile kind of thing. And yeah, that is my first foray into Magic as Scrap Iron Steve. This deck is really fun. I'm not gonna lie about that, I love playing this deck. It's not the best, it hasn't won a game yet, but fuck it, it's probably just the way I play it rather than the actual deck itself, because the deck itself is decent. And yeah, Magic, it's fun. I'm mainly a Yu-Gi-Oh channel. I am currently surrounded by Yu-Gi-Oh cards, but example, here's an orchestrated core. But yeah, it's just a generally... EDH is great fun. And I'm probably going to be showcasing a couple of other decks when they're either built or finished, namely my Duretti deck and my upcoming Melik deck, as well as maybe Zakama, Isperia, Sphinx Tribal. Yeah, that piece of shit is being made. Maze's End, etc. But that won't be for a while because Commander decks are expensive. So yeah, I think with that, I set myself face down. See you later, guys.